It was interesting over the weekend to see technical director at Arsenal, Edu, coming out and having his say on the transfer policy, and Mikel Arteta and a lot more as well. Arsenal bottom of the league currently. They play Norwich over the course of the weekend. He's urged fans to be patient as their transfer plan revolves around signing young players to build a new foundation at the club. Some of the quotes from him were quite interesting. Some of them I thought, you and I could have given those answers. I think it's been pretty clear what they're trying to do. They had a certain amount of money. They preferred to spend it on younger players and rebuild the squad on younger players that they feel the coach can influence and they can grow and then sell later on possibly, or increase the value all over time, because they're not one for spending a lot of money. So I wasn't too surprised with what he was suggesting. But the idea of pleading for patience, for me, seems a bit strange for a club that seemed to have been in transition since 2007.
Yeah, I agree. I think the interview was okay. I agree with you. I think some of what he said was all right and some of it a bit predictable. Some stock answers, but at least he fronted up. I think the worrying thing for Arsenal is when you look at the injuries they've got and the start of the season in isolation, it's not a big concern. I think they'll be fine in terms of when they get their like Partey, Gabriel back and start having their best 11 on the pitch. I think they'll be all right because they've got some, nucleus of a decent side. I think the more concerning was times last season where they really lost belief and lost all sense of fluidity and cohesion as a unit. Watching them play at times, they put in some really woeful performances, and it was as if, at times Arteta was still guessing about what his best 11 was, what tactical plan he was going to have. I know he coaches them. I know he works hard at trying to improve the players and does try and go out with a plan. I'm not suggesting he's clueless. What I'm saying is that he doesn't seem yet to have nailed down what he's really trying to do and what his best... I don't know Arsenal's best 11 at the minute, or what formation they're going to play each week I watch them. So I think that's the question mark. In talking about this patience that he wants the fans to have, in this plan that they've got, that's all well and good if you can see some progression on what they're trying to do. For me, there's been too much inconsistency in tactics and personnel.
A couple of the quotes. We signed 6 players who are under 23. It means a lot in terms of our planning. We have to balance the squad better. We have to recruit the players with the right characteristics and the right profile to make the squad better, more solid and much more consistent, because last season we suffered with consistency. I want to see the team play together. Then let's judge the team when they play together. Then after that, no problem, judge us then. And I think he's pointing to the fact that Arsenal haven't been able to put out their first choice 11 as of this point. But one of the things I didn't think he really answered was the fact that they've been trying to sell side Kolasinac all summer. They tried to sell Xhaka to Roma. Neither of those deals came off, and they ended up giving Xhaka an extended contract and Kolasinac playing in a back three against Manchester City after basically being ostracised for 8 months. And also the idea that they'd jettisoned one of their new signings from last year, Pablo Mari, after one game against Romelu Lukaku, and decided that Kolasinac was the better option for that particular game. As you say, in terms of consistency of coaching and team selection, that doesn't really make that much sense. And that actually probably was more of a failing of the manager than anything else.
Well, it's all a bit reactive rather than proactive. Of course, Murray struggled in certain games I've watched, even before the Lukaku one, and he actually chose him ahead at times last season instead of Gabriel, which was beyond my belief.
Who's been injured and as a result hasn't been able to play.
But he's still a bit different type of defender, so much better. At times he's played Chambers at right back in the Brentford game and the following game when actually he had Bellerin and Cedric, who were 2 full-backs.
And Chambers isn't really.
He's really a centre half.
Yeah.
So that was a strange one. And the tactical plan is more of a concern. Sometimes they really go after teams and press. Sometimes they sit in and be more defensive. The gaps between the Chelsea game, I couldn't believe the disjointed way they tried to press at times. When the front would go and press, and then all of a sudden they're playing 2 balls through and they're on the back 4. The gaps between the back line and the front line, midfield were being ran ragged. I felt for them.
The third goal against Manchester City was a prime example of that.
Exactly. So there are concerns there, but I think right now, if you're talking about making a change, I think you've got to let them get everyone fit and give them at least 10, 12 games and see where they're at. I think it's good in the fact that they're trying to recruit young talent, and they've already got some of their own brilliant young players as well, which is refreshing to see them being given a chance. So you have to let that You have to let that evolve. But I do think it's disappointing to see Arsenal fall as far as they had when of course when I was playing they were a wonderful side, and having Arsenal competitive pushing for the top 4 makes the whole league better.
Can Arsenal afford a long-term approach in this league now their top 6 status is somewhat of a memory? Is Arteta the right man for the job? 08717223344 if you want to get in touch with us on that. You can text us 81089. Tony Cascarino insisted Sam Allardyce could do a better job at the club if he was recruited over the weekend on Weekend Breakfast. It caused a bit of a stir. Because it's quite an inflammatory thing to say. But is it that ludicrous? This is what Tony had to say.
Certain types of managers who couldn't do a job, and we've gone so much to the coaching mindset that more than there are guys that can do a management job and I agree. I think if you looked at what he did for West Brom and how they went down, but he certainly made them far better defensively. He'd make Arsenal way better. Now, some Arsenal fans will say, we don't care about that. We want our team to have more flair. I think Sam would undoubtedly do a better job than Arteta's doing at the moment.
Now, that sounds quite inflammatory, and there's a big headline, Allardyce would be better than Arteta. Obviously, we'll get a lot of clicks and everyone will go into meltdown over it. But provide a little bit of context for it. Mikel Arteta is a manager in the first throes of his career. He is 39 years of age. He has never managed a professional football team before in his life. Sam Allardyce has been doing the job for 25 years. Could Sam Allardyce, or should Sam Allardyce, be able to get a team more organised than maybe Mikel Arteta during the period in which he's been in charge? Probably, because Sam Allardyce is an expert at what he does. You might not like necessarily the way he styles the team or his methods and the way his philosophy works, but ultimately, could he get them more organised? Probably. That's probably just a fact, really. Mikel Arteta is someone who they're going to, you would have thought, invest time and energy in, because they believe that over time he's going to be a very, very good manager with the right philosophy that fits into the ethos of the club. But that's got to be a long-term project, because ultimately he is learning on the job.
Yeah, and what Cass is actually saying is he alluded to is management and coaching are two different things. The best managers generally can coach as well, but they're managing players' egos and motivating them as well as putting a plan together to win games. And Arteta has never done it before, as you said. And the other thing Arteta did, he started by setting his bar really high. He came in, won some huge games and won the FA Cup. So the expectation went through the roof. So, he was struggling straight away by winning the cup, if that makes sense. But in answer to your question, if you're really honest, if Sam had took the job when Arteta did, would they have won more games from then till now? Probably yes.
Would they have improved on 8th both seasons? Of
course they would, but
yes.
How they would have done it might be in question. It's irrelevant anyway, because it's a hypothetical that's not going to happen. What we're judging is Arsenal's decision to take a risk on a coach that's never managed, to try and compete against the other best coaches in the world, not just the Premier League. You're expecting Arteta to do a transition job, evolve the squad, get players out, get players in, build up a philosophy and a style, whilst trying to compete with Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, Tuchel, Ole, with the resources he's got.
It's impossible for him, isn't it?
Nearly.
And learn how to be a manager.
Yes,
he hasn't done that before.
All the criticism, I don't mind analysis of managers. They're in a privileged position to get paid a fortune, so they've got to be able to take it.
But is the fault really with Arsenal for appointing him in the first place?
That's what I was just going to say. So we can deflect some of the blame from Arteta, I would suggest, because why would he ever turn that opportunity down? You wouldn't, because obviously you all have this self-belief that you give an opportunity, I can do it. Ultimately, they've thrown him into the lion's den. That's what they've done. And it's a tough job for anyone, that Arsenal job, taken not just after what Wenger achieved, the expectation of the wonderful fans, a full stadium every week. It's difficult for anyone to go in there who's got experience. Look what Moisey had great experience going in at United. Struggled with that pressure. Now Arteta's he's got a big 2-3 months coming up, hasn't he? That's going to decide his future. Because if they carry on the way they are, he's gone.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.